and then we labeled it and gave it a name. It's 4D Aligner. And this is probably the geek side of our company. If you go to four dimensions, you have X, Y, Z, and then time. So ultimately, this is supposed to make it more convenient and less time for a team. So that's the goal. But we have 3 ways of saying time, and you'll hear about this later. And then I wanted to leave it with this slide because it's not just a printer, it's not just hardware, it's not just software, it's not just our materials, it's all of the materials we hear about that really can move the needle in digital dentistry. Okay. So let's have a great event.
In the interest of time, we're just going to jump directly into Keynote. And 2 keynotes that we're going to do before we're going to take a short break. So let's go to Keynote. The first keynote that we have, I will give a short introduction. Stellar character and supporter of Wayne Shea, I guess many of you probably heard of his name, or if you haven't, you're going to hear a lot about him. He's, first of all, he's a very well-known investor in the hard tech space, and we'll talk a little bit more about what hard tech is. And the reason why we invited him was because I keep on having people asking me, what did LuxCreo do to attract all those tier 1 investments, right? On China for things, like all those other people, right? Because dental space is very ignored, right? So instead of me answering that question, I invited the best in the industry to come in. Now, what they have done in the past is that you probably already know is that Align was invested by Klein & Perkins 20-some years ago before people believed in aligners. They were the first one, right? In the dental space, it's like Life Forces, like Desktop Metal. They were all the first investors there. And we're very lucky in having them too. Early investor in 2018. All right. Okay, so when he graduated from Caltech, right? Bachelor, PhD, very smart, went on to McKinsey, and then joined Klein & Perkins, started his great career track. He started his own venture fund last year, Matter Venture Partners, right? And it's quite amazing last year, even as the capital market has been very depressed last year, he raised $300 million. That was exceptional. If you look at last year's what the VC has been done, he's way up there on the top. So without further ado, Wayne, please. Share with us.
Hello everyone. After that intro, I think I go home. Please transcribe some of that. That's very, very flattering. So yesterday when I was leaving the office, my secretary was like, dude, where are you going? I said, I'm going to go see some orthodontists. And she goes, aren't you too old for that? And I thought about the comment, and I'm like, you're right. That undersells all of it. I'm actually going to see some technologists, right? Because orthodontics has been one of the industries in healthcare that drives a lot of the forefronts of technology. Right? Who would have imagined aligners or braces or digital dentistry, a few years ago or a few decades ago, or sure a few decades ago, it would sound like science fiction. Right? So, Mike invited me here to talk about technology because I think that's what this conference is really about. And I thought a good place to start would be what we're seeing in the industry today, right? What's good for this feedback? Because I'm standing with the speaker. Okay. All right, I'll stand on this side and try not to block the presentation. Yeah, so I thought we'd start by talking about what are the major trends today, right? Like right now, shaping our industry. And you'd be surprised about how much of that intersects with what we're going to talk about throughout the day, okay? So this is the VC's view about what's hot, what's not. And my benefit is that I actually have to put my money where my mouth is. these are 6 areas that my firm has invested in over the last few years, and I'll take you through them. There are 6, and by the way, this is just hard tech. Okay, hard tech is defined by things that have hardcore science or engineering as an underpinning. In addition to software, it often involves hardware, which is not easy for startups to manage. We like to say it's hard to do, but if you do it right, it's hard to copy. And the last one is very important, that the venturable ones, the ones you can fund with venture dollars and scale them to sustainable businesses, are actually hard to find. Okay? So that's why I call it hard tech. Some people use deep tech or frontier tech. Those work too. But I've been in the industry long enough to remind myself how hard it is, so I call it hard tech. Right? So, 6 major trends in hard tech today. The first is that semiconductors drive everything. I think we would all agree upon that. The most prominent point about semiconductors driving everything was during COVID. I'm sure you guys heard about a semiconductor shortage, which meant you have cars with no radios, and you have toasters that can't be delivered because of a single chip that couldn't be delivered. So clearly, and by the way, if it wasn't for semiconductors, this whole AI revolution would not exist. I'm sure you've seen the guy in the leather jacket who's the biggest beneficiary of the AI boom. He happens to sell chips, right? NVIDIA and Jensen Huang. So semiconductors drive everything is one thing. Second thing, the blue collar labor shortage. I'm sure we've all been impacted. Right? You go to the airport, there's not as many TSAs there. You go to a restaurant and you're waiting on for a long time because they don't have enough servers. I'm sure in the dental labs, they can't hire enough people to trim the moldings, polish the dentures and stuff like that. And it's very real, right? There's 2 major factors driving this, right? One is, of course, with rising standards, people don't want to do as laborious work. That's one. So it's simply maturity of industries. And the second is actually the younger generation. They can sit there and answer a phone and watch Twitch with Diet Coke to be a call center operator for Amazon. Why do they want to do truck loading and unloading, right? So there's a generational shift away from blue collar laborers, and this is creating a severe problem globally. And even the younger generation in China don't want to do laborious work. So how do we solve that? We can only solve this through robotization and automation. Right? And you're seeing that all over the place. Right? So that's the second theme. Third theme, Gen AI, generative AI, large language models, ChatGPT, whatever you want to call it, is a huge leap forward in computing. Is a huge leap forward, right? And what it means is it's going to touch every aspect of our lives in some way or another, right? Everything from, of course, asking queries to the cloud and getting some synthesized answers, to education, to learning, to transportation, to law, to medicine, and of course, I'll talk about later how it affects our dental tech industry. Fourth one. We all talk about manufacturing and the need to have it more domestically, right? And the truth is, that's easier said than done. 30 or 40 years ago, when we outsourced manufacturing to then third world countries, like China in particular, it was done on the backs of low-cost labor, right? What we did is we took our factories here, we moved them to China, scaled the factory by about 20, 30, 40, 50x, and put very low-cost labor in it, and did it by brute force. But if we're going to onshore any of this technology back to the US or any of the developed countries, we don't have low-cost labor to build a factory, throw the people in, and execute on manufacturing. We have to do it through digitization. We have to do it through automation. We have to do it in a much more efficient way than just throwing labor at the problem, because we don't have such cheap labor, a la trend number 2, right here. So onshoring and friendshoring will require new infrastructure of manufacturing, of which we'll talk about LuxCreo plays a part in. Fifth trend, we hear about sustainability, electrification, and it's really everywhere, right? It's beyond just electric vehicles. We have to find ways of making things, servicing things much more efficiently than before. By the way, the big robber of energy today actually is generative AI. I don't know if you know this, but the amount of energy it consumes to answer a query that you ask ChatGPT, the amount of water that consumes and energy is a serious challenge on top of the sustainability challenge that we have in all of our other industries. So all new technology must have sustainability and electrification in mind. Right? Last one, life science. There's been tremendous progress in life science over the last few decades, right? Who would imagine that we can have CAR T therapy, right? Who would imagine that we can have designer drugs instead of, just randomly choosing things from a combinatorial chemistry output? We can go with rational design and pick exactly what we want to do. And then more recently, you hear about layering AI on top of life science, right? To even accelerate things further. But the dirty secret there is that in order to incorporate AI with life science, we need 10,000 to 100,000 to 1 million more times more data to feed into the AI system to produce useful AI results. But where are you going to get 10,000, 100,000 more lab technicians with the white lab coat? That's not possible. So we must, again, use digitization, automation to generate more data. And the same is true for the dental tech industry, right? So these are the 6 major trends that are shaping our lives today. I have the good fortune of investing in the fundamental entrepreneurs and technologies that underpin a lot of these trends. And you'd be surprised that actually if you layer these technologies over LuxCreo, for example, you'll find a lot of commonality. Okay, so next slide, please. I guess I'm the guy with the next slide. There we go. All right, let's talk about that. So remember we heard a few themes, right, about semiconductors, robotization. Let's see how they layer onto LuxCreo, right, which is very interesting. So first of all, semiconductors. Well, it's because of semiconductors that we can produce smaller, faster, finer resolution oral scanners, right? And the cost is way coming down. I would imagine that the current generation of orthodontics and dentists are trained in school with an understanding and familiarity with digital oral scanners. And that's really the front end of a lot of the digital dentistry that we're going to talk about. So this is truly semiconductor enabled. We see a future in which one day it's so cheap that you literally give them away for free. And what we make money on is the value add and the services that come from having such a tool at the table side, ready to go with infinite familiarity. Okay, so semiconductors is clearly driving digital dentistry. Second one, I'm going to go down to the bottom. Why direct printing is important? Yes, it's convenient. Yes, it shortens time to market. Yes, it allows you to, provide the patient with a solution right away, right? Within days or even hours or minutes before they walk out the door. But more importantly, it reduces a lot of waste, right? We've all seen things done in which you have to trim, you have to throw away, it doesn't quite fit, you have to redo. 3D direct printing will actually shorten the waste or diminish the waste by 80 to 90%. So this drives at the sustainability point that we saw in the earlier slide. Another area, you always talk about selling solutions, right? And digitization. Well, if we layer on AI, which is beginning to happen, LuxCreo has some experimentations in how AI can help optimize their flow, make it more convenient. There is a future in which, where you have AI-enabled one-click dentistry, right? If you take the data from the scanners, you take a bunch of data that you've gathered from the different offices, the different academic institutions, our different partners, even our own experiments, and you optimize, for example, trim line detection, singulation, layout slicing, right? And you do this in the face of the dental labor shortage. These tasks in the past were very laborious. Here you can automate it, adjust, adapt on the fly, and that's really a future that I think is very close to heart and very close to time, right? So AI-enabled digital dentistry. The fourth one, we talk about automation and robotization, right? Ideally, we shouldn't be selling point solutions, right? Along with the one click, it should be an automated flow, right? You should be able to just input the data and the system will be able to churn out an entire treatment plan, right? And this minimizes iteration. It minimizes, low value add labor that is just tweaking things on the margin, right? And that would be a great thing at your fingertips. And it's fully custom to the specific situation of the orthodontics office, or the lab, or the patient, right? And that again is right around the corner. And lastly, I talked about digitization of life science. The digitization of dental treatment is completely congruent with that trend, right? There should be no other ways to do it. Hopefully, the people in the loop are minimized, and the doctors and the gurus can focus on, the value add pieces of it instead of the mechanical pieces of it. So, if you take the major trends in the industry and you overlay them with what LuxCreo is doing, this is a tremendous amount of congruency. That goes back to my first question. I undersold all of you in telling my admin that I'm coming to see a bunch of orthodontics and orthodontics partners. I should have said, I'm going to a really cool technologist meeting with the most advanced technology leaders who happen to apply their trade to actually digital dentistry. Right? Last slide, and I'll get out of your face. So, as a venture capitalist, right, my first role in being successful is figuring out what the trends are. Right? The second role is to see how my investment targets overlay with these trends. Because obviously you want to invest in something that aligns with the trends. So the first two slides allude to that already. But what does it take for a company actually to be successful? That's a bit different than points 1 and 2. And I wanted to tell you why I thought LuxCreo was a good investment, right? Remember, coming out of our last investment in dentistry, it was a Litech. The bar is pretty high, right? So what did I see in this team? Well, first of all, as a VC, I need to take the right risk, right? And there's usually two major risks that a VC can take. We can take a technology risk or a market risk. You don't want to take the market risk. The market risk says, oh, the market may or may not be there, and that's a risk that even VCs can't control. The best example is consumer apps. If you have the wrong consumer app and consumers don't want it, you can spend more money to subsidize it, but once the subsidy's gone, there's no one to sell to. In this particular case, we're actually taking on technical risk. We're not taking on any market risk. The market's need for everything we talked about in slide 2 is absolutely there. Right? Arguably, we're a bit behind the curve. People wanted digital dentistry, one-click automation, lower waste 3D printing long time ago. All right? So we took no market risk. We simply took a little bit of technology risk, which as a VC I can accept because I can spend money. We can partner with industry veterans and luminaries to help reduce the technology risk. So we took, I think, in investing in LuxCreo, the right risk. Number 2. You obviously want to do something with some technology, right? You don't want to do something that you succeed in and then some big player or fast follower comes and takes you out. In the case of LuxCreo, I couldn't imagine a startup with more technology. Right? This isn't just about 3D printing. This isn't just about materials. This isn't just about full workflow, right, or minimization of waste. It's all of the above factored into very many different types of industries, plus the fact that ultimately it has to be easy to use. The ease to use part should not be underestimated. There are many technologies that look great, that are awesome with great modes, that are really hard to use. Anyone use MS-DOS? For the younger people here, you can look that up on the history channel. Okay? It wasn't until Windows or iOS Touch that, wow, amazing technology, most importantly, easy to use. I'm a firm believer that ease of use is a key driver of LuxCreo's product design methodology. Okay? So easy to use. Third, I heard the word solution mindset used a bunch, right? No one wants a point solution. No one wants to buy a printer. No one wants to buy a mouth guard. No one wants to buy a liner. They want to buy a full flow solution that allows the customer, which is our patients, to have the highest benefit in the shortest time for the best value. And to do that, you really have to integrate across a bunch of things that are interdisciplinary, right? Starting with materials, hardware, science, understanding your workflows, understanding your challenges, understanding who pays and how they pay, right? And the willingness to pay. And so it's the solution mindset of the LuxCreo team that I think was so attractive for us to make the investment. And you can see from this crowd that you're super multidisciplinary, right? This isn't just orthodontics or dentists. You have industry partners, material partners, software partners, right? And academic partners to the professors out there, right? That's very rare, by the way. Most technologists only think of a point solution, but that's necessary but not sufficient. Lastly, there's a saying at Kleiner Perkins, okay, that I was taught 20 years ago when I started venture capital, and it goes something like this. It says, good teams can change bad technologies. Good technologies cannot change bad teams. If you have a bad team and bad technology, you're really F. Okay, so I go back to, it's all about the team. And this team here is one of the rare teams on earth that, one, understands the technology risks, understands and appreciates and focuses on the ease of use, is multidisciplinary and able to pull the different parts required, and more important, they have an execution mindset. Right? Their execution mindset is about delivering in reasonable time at reasonable cost with reasonable quality a product to all of you that can really help affect you and your customers. With that, I'll stop, hand it over to our next speaker. But that's an insight on how a venture capitalist looks at digital dentistry in the face of all the major trends, and why I put my money where my mouth is on LuxCreo. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing your insights on how to be a successful dental startup. All right, well next, all right, so when talk about basically 0 to 1, right? When you have an idea, how do you take it to a company, how do you execute it? The next speaker, Bindu, I'll talk a little bit more about him, is that Bindu is going to talk about how you go from 1 to 100, especially in today's environment, right? It's, I think a lot of you see that in the last year is that, you know, across, right, stock market is fantastic, but at the same time too, is that you go into more fundamental, you know, dental spaces or manufacturing spaces, that it's actually a little bit depressed, right? And that in this environment, what does it take to grow? Not only grow, but hyper grow, right? And he's going to share some of his experiences and stories from ULAB, from Angel Align, and also from his you know, histories in the installment. Right? So Bindu's joining us online, and we're going to have the setting up this Zoom session here. And Bindu's talk is going to be unlocking hypergrowth, right? And a little bit more about Bindu here is that he's currently executive director at Care Capital, right? So Care Capital, I think many of you might know, is behind Angel Align, which is coming up to be the second largest aligner company in the world. Right, there we go. And previous to Care Capital, Bindu has been working as Strawman, as the global head of the orthodontics and at Oracle. All right, Bindu, take it away. Oh yes. I'm not hearing you. Hello.
You see anything? Put the volume up on the laptop.
Volume.
Is it hot? It's hot.
I think he's talking. Bindu, hold on for a second. So we're trying to get the volume up on the laptop here.
You also touch it, it's a mic.
And, yeah. Audio.
Recording in progress.
Oh,
That works.
maybe the right steps. All right. So there's microphone. There's speakers over there. Indu, can you speak and the gee.
여기 사시. 싱가포르 컴퍼니에 인수가
Are you there? Oh, there we go. I'm hearing something.
Oh, there we go.
Did you see the talk?
Sing a song. Let's just say something. Say something.
Maybe I'll put it
Yeah, can we hear you? Can you try again? Keep talking.
Yeah.
I don't have an audio channel down there. That does not visual. I'm just, that one's audio. Just do it audio. And then you can use the video, just do audio. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we can hear you. So I'll put a speaker next to the computer. We can hear you.
Okay, yeah, Bindu, go ahead. Yes, yes.
Teamwork. Okay, go ahead, Bindu. Can you hear us, Bindu? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, Bindu, you can start.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Firstly, thank you everyone for joining you remotely. I couldn't join for personal reasons, but I really wish the LuxCreo team, Mike and Michael, and the entire team, the best. With the launch of the new training center in Chicago, it's a very exciting step. I'm, Bindu. I am executive director of CAT Capital. CAT Capital is a dental-focused private equity fund. We have over 50 investments in dental. We focus on late-stage growth investments in the field, and I think anyone in dental would know companies like CapStream, Angel Align, ULab, Lightforce, etc. These are all part of our portfolio. And yeah, I'd like to get started today talking a little bit about how to achieve growth or hypergrowth, in the dental industry. So, one of the most fundamental things in the dental industry is making sure that you have the right innovation. With the main user being a dentist who has huge risks just adding innovation into their clinic, as their entire livelihood depends upon. It's a small business, so dentist has to be really careful while adding innovation. So they have to take care that they're adding the right innovation, safe for their patients, it's reliable, and the company is going to stand behind it. These are fundamental principles that really determine whether a dental startup achieves success or it fizzles out, irrespective of how exciting the technology might seem. And this is where I'm very excited about LuxCreo, because I think it has all these key attributes that make a company successful. The LuxCreo's primary focus is on direct printed 3D, direct 3D printed aligners, which is, as we know, a very exciting breakthrough. Many companies have tried for a long time. I don't know if everyone remembers. If I'm not wrong, in 2013 or 2014, Align discussed the possibility of direct 3D printing aligners. But there are many challenges to overcome in order to make this a reality. And it's the evolution of the 3D printing technology definitely has enabled that, and I expect there to be a rash of innovations coming in this field as the 3D printing technology matures. But it's not just the ability to print an aligner, but also having the whole community tied in with the aligner that makes a product or a solution the right solution. So, and the timing matters as well. With the aligner industry, it's expected to grow, continue growing in the coming years. Various reports report various, growth possibilities. This is one example here. They expect that there will be about 26% growth globally in the aligner industry, and the industry is expected to kind of grow 10 times over the next 10 years in value. That's really exciting. And as users of this technology, dentists are at the forefront of seeing this demand. And one of the interesting things that has happened is there were many companies that tried to take this direct to the consumer, cutting out the critical part of the oversight of a trained medical professional. So this was a scary time for everyone in the industry, but unsurprisingly, it has failed to have legs. But the positive aspect that has come out of this is the awareness for the aligners has increased tremendously, not just in the United States, but globally. There have been, many companies that have sprouted that have been advertising aligners to patients. So as these companies fall away, the demand for aligners and generally the demand for an aesthetic treatment has not fallen away. And this demand remains to be fulfilled by the dentist. And that's really the most exciting, time for, anyone in the profession. So any dentist has the opportunity to grow their practice by offering aligners. I think this is just an incredible time to be practicing. So the most important thing here is, how do you talk to the patient? How do you convince the patient? How do you offer the most flexible solutions for the patients? Not every patient needs a comprehensive treatment. Not every patient is sure of their decisions. So a patient who walks away might be a patient lost for a couple of years. So, there needs to be a continuum in the solutions that can be offered, starting from chairside for same-day starts, all the way to complex solutions that might be manufactured in a central factory, and retention that follows that. So, without question, the demand that has been created and the companies that have left that demand unfulfilled has created a huge opportunity for the industry. And I'm really hoping that solutions like LuxCreo will, create that flexibility for the dentist and create some incredible growth opportunities, which are, to be mutually enjoyed across the industry. And while we are speaking about this, it's been an incredible time, a hard time for both practices and companies. Practices have had difficulty with, recruiting staff and retaining staff, because the gig economy has pulled a lot of people away, especially post-COVID. There was a big spurt in growth or demand post-COVID. That has kind of fallen away. There are a lot of uncertainties with inflation. People are, pushing aside certain discretionary, treatments, etc. So it's an uncertain time, and this is where having solutions that the doctor can control in terms of both cost, timing, and flexibility is important. But it's also important to look at the companies and what challenges they have faced. From an investor standpoint, these are what we have seen in the last couple of years. In pre-COVID, low interest rates fueled a lot of investment activity. So every company that was raising funds was able to raise plenty of funds, and they were also spending it with the hope that there will be an IPO possibility or others soon. So everyone was building their teams to fit an IPO situation rather than where the company is at that particular time. But COVID hit. None of us were planned for COVID, and in the post-COVID environment, we've been faced with unprecedented challenges. One being inflation, another being very high interest rates, and for a company and for funds, one of the biggest challenges has been the high interest rate. The sources of fund, the limited partners, have a dilemma. Should I invest my money now, or should I just put it in a high interest savings account for a few years and earn a sure interest, and then invest when the interest rates are low and it makes sense for me to go and deploy my cash? So this has really created funds being very, very picky with where they can invest and they want to invest. So, everyone is looking for the same things, a low burn, high growth company. And that's just not the reality in the startup world. So there's created huge challenges for companies to actually raise funds to be able to grow. The other unique challenge that we have seen in the dental industry is that, there have been multiple failures in the dental industry. I think if you're in the industry, you know, or you might have seen a few exciting startups, suddenly wind down their business. I don't want to name them, but you probably would have seen a few in the industry with really exciting technologies. And, we've also had some big dramatic failures like Smile Direct Club and others, and, Candid, etc., that have wound down their business or completely changed their business method practices. Large companies like Dentsply, Sirona, and Vista have, repeatedly failed to post, any sort of growth in the last couple of years. So the dental industry as such has been challenged. So when you couple this with the high interest rates, it's been a very tough time for companies in the dental space to raise funds. And, this has resulted in many challenges. Companies have been to go through painful workforce reductions, funds, really looking for surefire returns. So, companies have to really focus on the right priorities, abandon, maybe certain risky growth opportunities, which sometimes are the ones that lead to explosive growth. And also, founders having to make a tough choice. Do you raise money with a lower valuation or a crisis funding, or do you wait out this crisis? So, it's been a very challenging time for both the industry and, the startups in the ecosystem, especially in the dental field. So, it's always good to see companies that are riding out this tough times and also thriving. LuxCreo is one of them. It's really exciting to see them launch, but I can also share a couple of other interesting examples. I think I see Charlie somewhere in the audience there. He's, the founder of ULab. We have here. So, things that have not really changed are when you have customer focus, when you provide flexibility to the customer, and you really solve their pain points and focus on that. The customer centricity is something that has not failed, even in these tough conditions. So, these are just a couple of examples of companies that are, thriving by, providing the customers exactly what they need. One of them, and these companies are in different stages of their evolution, so I think it's a good example for, when you have the right focus, you can grow, you can outlast this tough times and thrive. So Angel Align, I'll start with that. It's a company that's been around for more than 20 years. They were, in a single market for the whole 20 years of their existence until 2022, when they first started getting into international markets, post their very successful IPO in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And the interesting thing, and all these three are portfolio companies of their capital, so we get to see what the companies are doing right and which helps them grow. Angel Align just had incredible discipline when it came down to its operations. Very highly automated and high quality aligners that are manufactured and consistently delivered within the aligners leave in 5 days or under, irrespective of the volume of orders that they face from their factory, and delivered globally in 10 days or under. A company that has only been, in one market for their entire existence went from one market to 55 markets in under 2 years. And it's poised to become the global number 2 and achieve profitability in every market that they are in, all within 3 years of going international. And fundamentally, the reason for the success, as an investor, we couldn't be sure that they would be successful in this endeavor. There are no precedents for this before. But there was some confidence, and the reason for the confidence is the company did a few things really well. They maintained their operational reliability irrespective of growing volume, from day one. So customers who ordered their first cases internationally got their aligners in 10 days or under after they approved the case, all the way to their current growth stage. So they've maintained that. They've maintained the quality of their treatment planning, which is by investing at least 6 months to 9 months ahead of demand coming in. So, and also having a huge pool of orthodontists who oversee the cases as well. So keeping the quality really high. And most importantly, hiring top-notch teams in the countries that they are in, so that the customers firstly see familiar faces knocking on their doors, and then backing that up with reliable service. So, it's been an incredible success story, and it entirely comes down to customer focus. There are many companies, as you know, that are trying to, grow in the aligner space. Some have shown early stages of success, but Angel Align's success here has been quite an interesting case study in that standpoint, as the company was unknown just 2 years back in most of the world, unlike the other aligner brands that have launched from very well-established brands in the market. The next one is ULab. ULab, was founded by Charlie, who's sitting in the room. You should talk to him a lot more about how they got started. It's a very artificial intelligence-driven platform, but with a lot of aligner experience that also built the workflows. What ULab really offers, and is unmatched in the industry, is the incredible flexibility that the platform offers. I'm really confident that ULab will become the primary digital platform for any orthodontic office or any dentist who wants to offer an orthodontic workflow. You can create retainers for printing either a model or a direct printed aligner or retainer very easily using the system. You can design simple cases with, in under 5 to 10 minutes, all the way to staging the cases and exporting them. And you can also design complex cases. You can remove brackets that are bonded on the teeth just with a, simple clicks. And you can take those cases and finish them off with an aligner by applying the rest of the case in the system really easily. And not only that, they're also launching indirect bond trace and ability to make them shortly. So anything that the orthodontist really wants to do, or dentist is offering orthodontics wants to do, you're able to do that with relative ease and great flexibility in the platform. The platform is open to many systems that want to integrate with it. So really putting the control back in the hands of the practitioner. And, interestingly, it's also one of the platforms platforms of choice for LuxCreo for this exact reason. It enables you to plan the cases very effectively, and this really comes down to focusing on the right innovations. I think Gwen touched on that as well. Partnering with people who are doing other parts of the workflow well, and focusing on where each company excels is actually a very key attribute to have in these challenging times. So, and the last one that I will touch here is Lightforce. I think many of you would have heard of Lightforce. Lightforce also, really focused on customer pain points. There's an incredible surge in demand for orthodontics in general, but staffs are hard to retain, hard to train, hard to come by. And when you have brackets and wires that require quite a bit of artistry and incredible amount of experience from the orthodontist, it takes a lot of time of the orthodontist's valuable time that they need to spend chairside with the patient. By taking that time and spending it early during the planning when the patient's not sitting in the chair, Lightforce with its ceramic 3D printed brackets and customized prescriptions actually has enabled a doctor to grow their practice in the bracket and wire space, which is the part of digitalization which has been hard to crack, and solved a lot of the pain points that practice has. So by focusing again, these are good examples of companies that are thriving in this hard times, and the common factor with all these companies is the customer focus, solving customer pain points, and being very service oriented. And along those veins, we did talk about the right innovation. So with LuxCreo, not only have they cracked the material requirements that are needed to actually make 3D printed aligner. Many companies, as you know, are trying to launch in this space, but I think LuxCreo has the best solution in the market, and most importantly, the digital polishing, I think, is a really great example of the right innovation and right focus. This comes with, it's not a simple thing as adding small, support structures. Every part of their system, starting from the resin to the environment that is inside their 3D printer, to the curing technology, etc., are all working together to enable a 3D printed aligner that's actually easy to polish and deliver. A lot of the other solutions have supports that make it extremely hard to clean up, that most people just default to the thermoform aligners. But LuxCreo is really solving this critical issue that prevents a practice from being able to scale with the 3D printing. And the great part about 3D printing is it's a single-step process. You don't need to touch once the aligners are designed until you need to polish and deliver the aligners. It really makes sense to do this chairside, unlike trying to thermoform trim in volume. So it's the right innovation at the right time to support the growing need for offering aligners in any practice. And in addition, we talked about flexibility. LuxCreo is also systems able to do a lot of other things that you might need to do. You can make splints, you can make guides, etc., all in the same system. So one investment that actually covers pretty much all your needs, but still provides you with a primary growth driver, which is aligners. And as we discussed before, the most expensive part of commercialization is getting something into the hands of every practitioner. Sales teams are expensive. learning a new software is expensive because it's very disruptive to the practice. So, it's really great to see LuxCreo forming a community where they are partnering with, companies that are leading in each part of their field, while LuxCreo adds the final element, which most people have not been able to craft, which is making a high-quality 3D printed aligner and partnering with, as we talked about before,
are a more efficient and customer-friendly way to scale. Keystone.
Companies like ULab, Keystone, Glidewell, etc. So it's a very exciting time. This really creates a resistance-free adoption for the dentist. You can use what you're using today and just add LuxCreo in to really offer a high-value offering for the patients. The same-day stocks are, as any authorized would know, for some patients you really need that same-day stock. And the great thing is LuxCreo offers the ability to get that same-day stock with aligners. This has been something people have really wanted to do and have really put a lot of effort into cutting and trimming aligners inside a clinic, which is dirty, so it's time-consuming. And a partner like ULab makes this seamless as well. You can offer this for complex cases. ULab actually allows you to print your first 3 or first 5 aligners in clinic, and then make the rest either later in your clinic or outsource them if you want to. So, the community in partnership really enables this technology to scale. So, I'm really excited about where LuxCreo is going and the innovation they're bringing, and of course, the very customer-oriented team that we have. As we always say, the right ideas will thrive, and I wish the LuxCreo team, all the best, and all the practitioners, all the best offering this to your patients. I think this is a game changer in the industry, and in time we will see this.
All right, thank you, Bindu. Thank you, Bindu. Now, Bindu couldn't be here because he's actually expecting a baby. All right, so congratulations. Thank you, thank you. All right, so next one. Oh, okay. Thank you, Bindu.
Very much.
All right. So next, I guess Dr. Kelvin Chen couldn't wait, and he's so excited about sharing his stories about the directed aligners. But before that, I feel like the next section is almost like a mini TMD, right? So let's get some coffee first. Just stand up, shake your legs, and then just let's get a little bit of coffee before we start the next keynote. We're running a little bit behind, but that's all right. We're going to catch up. Kevin did a recording because it's almost midnight his time. So this one's going to be exactly 20 minutes. I know. We'll count the seconds, all right? And then he's going to stay and answer some questions that you might have.